Well, good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. I want to bring you just a very quick update here on our potential weekend storm system rolling in. I am actually out of town at a conference here on Thursday as I'm recording this. Going to be out of town on Friday. Won't be returning until Saturday. So updates are going to be a little bit more limited from me on this system until Sunday, but at least give you an idea of sort of what's going on here. We've got either a rain or snow or an ice maker coming in or some variation of all of that. So it's just a real mess. Let me take you really quickly here through the three main models. And I'm just going to say this. We're probably not going to get a great handle on this until we get closer to the event, because this is one of those kind of events. Really think you need the higher res models to be able to resolve this a lot better, because these global models just don't have the capability of resolving surface temperature like what we need. These global models see the temperature at the surface at 2 meters. Well, that's not right at the surface. And so you really need those higher resolution mesoscale kind of models rather than these global models to be able to see some of those finer details. The NAM does not see this yet, and so it'll be tomorrow before the NAM starts to see this storm and get an interesting idea of how things pan out from there. But just for the fun, the GFS, this is really struggling. The GFS did have the low developing down in here, sort of tracking in a fashion up in here, and was bringing us all rain as a result of that. But now notice that the low is tracking way far to our south on this low, just ridiculously far to our south, and leaving us kind of high and dry where there's not a whole lot going on with there. I'm not sure that's too believable. The Canadian, I think, has a little bit better handle. I think the Euro may have the best, and I want to show it to you last. But notice what the Canadian does. By the time you get to Sunday afternoon, you've already got some snow tracking here on out here, and just sort of look at this. The rain snow line kind of right over in the area. It's got some ice mixed in with it here as well. So I think that's a real concern. See, the problem with these models is that they're going to have a very hard time determining what our surface temperature is. With the warmer air coming in, it's going to ride right over the top of that. So look at the 540 line. That's your 540 thickness line. That's your typical rain snow changeover line well to our north. That means most of this will fall as liquid as it rolls through. So the question to me really is not whether we see a lot of snow out of this. I'm not saying this is a big snow maker for us. This looks more like a either rain or ice kind of situation for most of us here in southern Indiana, just to be bluntly honest about it, folks. And the problem is the temperatures at the surface are going to be really determining everything, and these global models are going to have a hard time at that. These global models are saying, well, we get up to 34, 35 degrees. Well, that's pretty close to freezing, and if they are wrong, and oftentimes these models are a little bit too warm at the surface, then you're in the danger zone where you're right by freezing. And so all of this rain that you see come in could end up as being freezing rain, and it could be an ice storm. The reality of it is we just don't know this far out, but that is certainly on the table. I think the Euro has the best handle on this situation, so let me just sort of take you through the Euro. Come about 1 o'clock in the afternoon or so here on Sunday, you start to see this roll in, and then here you go. This is Sunday evening, and you see the mixed bag of precipitation rolling in from our west. So you got maybe a little bit of snow on the leading edge, but then you got some sleet and freezing rain here in the orange and pink colors before you get to the rain out there, and even some pockets of it mixing in. That's all going to be determined by those surface temperatures. And again, if you have temperatures at the surface that are at freezing, below freezing, well, when the rain falls, it's just going to be freezing rain. And if you're talking temperatures on a model that's saying 33, 34, 35 degrees, and the models oftentimes are too warm in these kind of situations, you could have a mess on your hand. The good thing about the Euro is at least hinting at that, whereas some of the others are not really doing, GFS not doing a great job at all. As this rolls through, though, watch how it does through Indiana. So you go into the overnight hours Sunday night, and you've got a mixed bag of snow, sleet, freezing rain, and rain all coming through the area. And so this could be one messy winter storm if this does happen. And you notice through the duration of this event that the transition from over to all rain versus the wintry precip is right over somewhere in southern Indiana. So the reality of this is we are just not going to know what happens. It does take us all over to all rain eventually, although I'm skeptical of that. We'll just end up having to see. I think the reality of this messiness being somewhere here over in southern Indiana, I really think that's a real possibility here. I think over our coverage area in southern Indiana, you could see rain. You could see freezing rain, you could see some sleet and snow all at the same time. I think that is a real possibility that we have to examine at this point. Now, could this potentially be a bigger storm? Well, possibly. Here's what's going on and why the models are suppressing it to the south. So here is, we're looking at the energy in the atmosphere, and watch this piece of energy here, but watch this piece of energy up here as well. What you've got is this energy kind of diving down at the same time, and so that's sort of forcing the storm, the main low, a little bit further south here. The question is, could these guys meet up with each other? Right now, the GFS, which I'm showing you here today, does not see these two pieces of energy connecting. There's no phasing in the system. And so that's why if you go out to the GFS, it's a system that sort of looks like this, where it's just a little bit disorganized here over us. Could that be wrong? And could these two end up phasing up together where you get energy all over here? That's a real possibility with them being that close, and I think in future runs we'll get that problem a little bit more solved. That's why this thing is going a little bit further to the south, though. You know, a southern track on a low like this is a classic good track for snow for us, if it's not too warm, and that's a big problem for us at this point. Unfortunately, what you've got is warm air sort of being kind of pumped in from it this way, and you've got this low level cold at the surface. Well, cold air is dense, doesn't like to get moved out of the way fast enough, and so that warm air rides right over the top of that cold air. It goes into the upper layers of the atmosphere. It warms the upper layers up where it falls as liquid rather than as snow, and it's freezing down at the surface, so you end up with ice rather than snow. That's a real possibility for us. You know, I'm not going to tell you that we're going to get an ice storm this weekend, but it's a real option that we have got to consider on the table at this point. I think over the next day or so, we'll start to be able to dial in these specifics a little bit more whenever we get those shorter term models, those mesoscale models, like the high-res NAM involved. Once you get the NAM involved in there, you'll be able to, I think, you'll get some hints at least that the global models just can't resolve because they are just not meant for this. These global models, you know, you're looking at 9 kilometer, 10 kilometer, 12 kilometer resolution in between these three models. That doesn't resolve fine-tuned details. The NAM is a 3 kilometer model. So you're going to get a lot tighter resolution with it. You're going to get a lot more details and specifics with it. So really, we're going to have to wait until we start to see some higher res data come in before we can get to a resolve. What I can tell you is Sunday morning looks fine for church at this point. Sunday afternoon looks okay now, unless it decides to speed up. It looks like this is going to be a late Sunday evening and into an overnight Monday night event for us mainly right now. That's the way things look right now. We'll just have to see. So again, I will try to make some more updates for you tomorrow, but I am out of town, so I will update as best I can from the hotel room in between breakout sessions at my conferences and keep you as up to date as best I can, folks. But that's the update for now. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite with Southern Indiana Weather. I'll talk to you real soon. Keep it tuned to Facebook, Southern Indiana Weather, and at Southern INWX on Twitter for as much as I can over the coming days.